Welcome back to Data Driven Recruiting. My name is Sophia Beck, and I'm joined by my co-host Tigran Sloyan. How are you, Tigran?
Hey, Sophia. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, surviving in this shelter in place. So today, I want to talk about university recruiting in general, whether it's for internship or full-time hire. Because in the news you hear that, the graduation ceremony is not going to happen. This will be like the first class that will not walk the aisles when they're graduating, but more, even beyond that emotional part, I think everybody is worried about, okay, well, do I still have a job? Right?
Yeah,
Because the
especially
job market
especially
is changing. Yeah.
especially around, I guess, internships, because even though the people who already had secured jobs might not be impacted so much, given that
Mm-hmm.
internship is only for the summer, and a lot of people are expecting this shelter in place to potentially continue into the summer. Internship programs
Right.
are being canceled, and some of it is being moved to be done remotely, virtually. So I think Google has moved their internship program to be done virtually. Some other companies have completely canceled those internships, and obviously it leads to a level of panic all throughout because the
Mm-hmm.
students are panicked because usually those internships convert into full-time jobs, and when you don't have the internship, that naturally
Right.
leads to a fear of like, how am I going to get the full-time job? And then from the
Exactly.
university recruiting
Especially,
perspective, mhm,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, especially it's also their chance to learn about the company and whether I want to work at this company full time, right? So that includes a lot of not just getting the job done, but interacting with the team members and getting the feel of it. And it's gonna be I mean, if they're all their first internship, it's gonna be difficult to even know what to expect, right?
it's a it's a time of uncertainty, right? So everybody
Mm-hmm.
is like, even the university recruiting programs and the university recruiting managers are fearful because just overall the impact and the impression, right? Like, you work really hard to build a positive brand with students to,
Mm-hmm.
really kind of create the perception in the market that you have a top-notch university recruiting program and process. And the fact that your internship program could get canceled leaves a really bad impression, especially if some of the other companies are not canceling it. So for example, if I as a candidate had a choice to go to take your internship or an internship at Google, and I chose your company, and then all of a sudden yours is canceled, and Google was doing it virtually, and that is perceived as like better, then next time I might
Mm-hmm.
not even consider applying because the last time I got
Right.
burnt by it. So
Yeah, there will be
it's
the emotional scar that it's going to be
right.
difficult to overcome. So what are some of the things that, let's start with the internship. What are some of the things that university recruiting managers should be thinking about? And what are some of the ways to make the experience? I mean, we cannot let, get the COVID-19 go away right away, but what are some of the things
Mhm.
to think about and they can do, not only in terms of communications to the candidates, but um, in terms of like how to, if you are doing the virtual internship program, what are some of the things to make it feel more like the physical one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, an internship is an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, right? Sure, it's an opportunity also to get to know the company and the culture,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's meant to be a learning opportunity. It's an extension to what you might be doing in school, but applied in a more practical setting, in a setting in which uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit more real world relevant and less academic. So I think keeping that goal in mind, because it's easy to forget that that's the goal. The goal is not
Mm.
necessarily to sort of build a relationship so you can get a full-time offer. No, the goal is to grow in your skills, in your abilities, so that you could be better qualified for that full-time position later on. If that's the goal, with that goal in mind, you can create an experience in which you don't really have to be in a company setting to be able to accomplish that. So starting with, for example, a side project, right? So like A great way to simulate an internship is if you start working on a side project this summer, and if I was a university recruiter and our internship program was getting canceled, I would work with engineering leadership, assuming these are like engineering interns, to come up with great side projects and great programs with some outlines that the students can do on their own. To still achieve the learning outcome that you're looking to achieve, right? So like just kind of providing guidance for what would be an interesting real world project that somebody could work on this summer to get some of that real world experience and be able to achieve that learning experience that they were hoping to achieve. And these days, there are a lot of online communities that you can go for guidance as well, because another thing that you get out of an internship is just the guidance of some of the more senior members of the staff. And these days, from Stack Overflows to many other communities, you can actually go get guidance without being surrounded by senior members of the staff of the company that you're interning at. So essentially, simulating that experience of learning on a real world project while not actually doing an internship or doing the internship virtually is the key here. And then when it comes to the flip side, right? Like,
yeah, and then I think kind of adding on to that, usually during the internship program, there is more of a group learning opportunities like lunch and learn. I mean, those can be also done over like a webinar session, right? And then you can invite people to still join and have a speaker share, how this person solved the problem and so on. So the learning can still go on virtually. And then I think we just need to be thinking more creatively about how to create that environment virtually and safely, right?
Yeah. And if you think about the reverse side of it, so on the flip side of it, as a university recruiter or a university recruiting program manager, what's going to happen with the long-term impact of this is that when you're recruiting a year from now or several months from now, you're going to find that a lot of the resumes that you're used to seeing with glowing internships are not going to have those internships anymore, right? So it's been the norm that like those who have really great internships got a lot more attention on the market, and those who didn't for one reason or another end up with great internships don't get looked at as much. So you have to be ready that a couple of months or even a year from now, you're going to have resumes that almost no one has a decent internship from the last summer. So you have to be ready to, I think that's a good thing, right? Because it has been discriminating against candidates for one reason or another didn't end up with a good internship. So it's an opportunity to look beyond those internships and really find a way to hire people based on their abilities and not necessarily based on using an internship as a signal for what they're capable of. So I think as a university recruiting organization, preparing to really evaluate talent based on what you believe they can do or they can bring to the company, and not by just looking at, okay, let's see where they did their internship last summer, is going to be one of the key components for preparing for what COVID-19, the world that COVID-19 creates in university recruiting once it's all done and gone.
Yeah. Okay. And how about the internship is that, right? And how about the full-time? Like now people are probably graduating either early or graduating virtually, and then they're supposed to start a new job, but probably all the onboarding needs to be done virtually. How can like employers and like hiring teams create more interactive and fruitful experience for those who are going to start their job in remote setting? And then, something to think about is, the first couple months, that's when you need a lot of attention from more senior crew, right? So how should we think about creating that environment for the new batch of, hires?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's going to expose a lot of gaps in how people used to do it. Because when you're doing it in person, a lot of the gaps that were there aren't noticeable because it's covered by that human-to-human interaction where you're literally sitting next to somebody and you can just turn around and ask a question, and that person answers the question and you move on, right? But once you really don't have that ability to turn around and ask a question very quickly, it exposes gaps in the onboarding process. The gaps could be in how well were certain processes documented, how well were certain trainings conducted to really prepare that newly onboarded team member to be efficient, to understand context, to do their job well. So I think it's going to be you should be looking at it not as oh my God, how are we going to handle this thing, but more of this is going to expose the gaps in our onboarding process, right? It's either not well documented or not well explained if people end up feeling lost at the end of our onboarding process. So how can we close those gaps? How can we write more things down? How we can elaborate more on our onboarding process so that at the end of it all, I, as a newly member of the team, feel like I know exactly where to go and what to look at to perform my job well, instead of feeling lost of who do I turn to ask this question or that question.
Right. And I think we can be more proactive about just, kind of assessing, did this person actually get it? I throw these documents or video at them to train themselves, but instead of just stopping there, having a very proactive sessions to assess whether this person actually understood the concept or skills that we were trying to teach them. So maybe even just having a little bit of in the school, you have an examination throughout the term, you just kind of check in to see whether this person actually got it, and then having that be more proactive than in-person setting. I think it'll be good. And I think also being more proactive, transparent, hey, this is our first time doing onboarding virtually. There might be things that it's not going to be so smooth, and I depend on you to highlight that and bring it to my attention, because I will not know if you don't tell me that, things are not great, right? So I think having that candid conversation to kind of keep going would be good as well. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for your advice on how to think about and navigate through university recruiting programs in this time of uncertainty and remote working environments. So thanks for your time.
Well, thanks a lot, Sophia. We'll get through it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us today. And for more tips and advice on data-driven recruiting, please visit ddr.codesignal.com. We'll see you next time.